Welcome to the Permission Slip podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Permission Slip podcast. And this topic is actually an interesting one. It wasn't one that we had planned in our podcast schedule, but it was something that kept coming up in the coaching calls that I was reviewing. So part of Flow Academy, which is our holistic life and leadership academy for leaders, coaches, and entrepreneurs that we offer 2 times a year. Part of that, when you get certified as a holistic life coach, is you do practice sessions with people. You record them and I watch them, and you get real-time feedback. And so you can really become the most effective and impactful coach that you can be right from the beginning. But one of the things that kept coming up from the clients that the Flow Academy students were working with was this idea of being numb and feeling numb and like being okay with it, sort of making it like a normal to not feel. And this really, really hit home for me because if you know, I worked a corporate job for 16 years in corporate leadership. We had a family, we had a house, we had volunteer commitments. We, did all of the things. And I often was numb. I was the one that was always fine. I didn't really allow myself. I guarded myself so much. I didn't experience lows, but because I was so guarded and always fine, I didn't experience the high moments either. I would say yes to things that only I was good at. So I could never reach greatness because I was always protecting myself. And that's where this whole idea of being numb comes from. So I looked up the definition of what it meant to be numb. And the definition was this: deprived of the power of sensation, feeling, or responsiveness. So you're deprived of sensation, feeling, and responsiveness. It's to be felt less, a deadening. I paused for a moment because I really wanted that to sink in. So if oftentimes we're protecting ourselves because as humans, we all innately want to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure. This is something we really dive into in Flow Academy. But this idea that we need to protect ourselves because of our past experiences, because of our big T or little t trauma that we might have had, and our conditioning, we start learning ways to wear our armor, to protect ourselves. And it sort of deadens the feelings that we have inside. It's so very interesting when I ask people this one question: how do you want to feel every day? Oftentimes, the word that comes back is not an adjective based on how you would want to feel. It's based on a result, an outcome, or an achievement. I want to feel accomplished. That's the one that I get the most. Now, isn't this interesting that society has allowed us to build up these walls? And because we've built up these walls and these armors, we're less connected to other individuals. We're less connected to ourselves. We're less connected to spirit, to source, to God, to the universe. It's that deadening. So today, for this podcast, I want you to think about this in your life. I want you to think about, how do you feel every day and how do you want to feel? And if you're like, Carmen, I am using those words, like I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel like I, checked off my to-do list. And you can't think of words like enthusiastic or free, then head over to the show notes because I put a link in there and it's a whole list of feelings and sensation words that you can use to really understand how do you want to feel and how are you feeling as well. So I want you to think in your life, how do you numb out? So this journaling prompt could be a great way to get started on that. And it is this: what is the one thing that continually stops you from experiencing the fullness and freedom in your life? What is the one thing that continually stops you from experiencing the fullness and freedom in your life? So I thought about this in my life. Over the years, I have had multiple ways that I numbed out. And I put a list together of ways that also my clients have numbed out. So I did a little culmination. So I would say my number one way that I numb out today is being busy. Being busy allows me to avoid. Being busy allows me to ignore maybe feelings that I want to ignore, that challenging conversations that I want to have, or even getting to the next level and pushing myself into being uncomfortable and growth. Because if I'm busy, then I don't have time for those other things. And it's almost like wearing this badge of honor. You get your invisible gold star that you're always busy. That would be the first way currently. The next thing that I find that I do often is distract myself or numb out by looking at my email or social media on my phone when it's not really, there's no purpose for it. It's not intentional. It's just like my body is, for whatever reason, feeling uncomfortable. So maybe my next thing that I'm supposed to be doing is something that's uncomfortable, that's going to push me into growth. Well, I better just pick up my phone and I better check to see if there are any comments I need to respond to on my social media post today, or let me check my email because I don't want it to get it too full. When realistically, it's just that I had this feeling inside that I wanted to push down that was like, ooh, doing that next thing, I might not be good at it. I might fail. It might not look great. And so that my body wants to protect me and keep me safe. Again, we want to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And oftentimes we've built up these ways of doing things and we're not even aware that we're doing them. And so we're numbing out. So then I numb out with my phone. Other ways I might numb out. And, I'm not saying watching TV is bad, but there are other things that I could be doing in the evening that maybe would lead to a happier and healthier life. Like, what if Joel and I didn't watch a show for an hour? And what if we just went out back in nature and sat by the bay in beautiful Miami Beach and talked, or didn't talk and just sat there and held hands? Or maybe had sex. But it's so much easier and comfortable to just watch TV. So what is the one thing that continually stops you from experiencing the fullness and freedom in your life? Now, for years, other things that I would do. Oh, I'm also an isolator sometimes as well. Yep, that's me too. I can isolate and avoid. Yep. I love being in person with people. However, the mechanism I've built up over time was that I am a shy person, and I'm able to use that in my subconscious, and my ego self kind of uses that against me, because even if I logically think I want to go somewhere and I want to see people and I want to do it, I start getting this feeling inside that, I don't feel like I'm going, and excuses start happening. And it's really easy for me to isolate and avoid. And so these are all ways that I do that. Oh, and food and alcohol used to be a really big one for me. That was big. I've been able to tackle that one with a lot of journaling, a lot of mindfulness, a lot of like talking about it, and vulnerability around it. And that's been really helpful for me. And so I'm giving you hope that if that is yours, you can get past that too, if you stop ignoring it and stop avoiding it and just take it straight on, right? And I'm going to give you some steps to be able to do that. So what is the one thing that's continually stopping you from experiencing the fullness and freedom in your life? And if you're like, I don't know, I'm not really resonating with this, then the next question, the next journal prompt is really going to get you. And it's this: So that thing that's stopping you from continually experiencing the fullness and freedom in your life, what does it cost you? When I was journaling on this, I actually had a tear, I got a little choked up about it. I am again right now. It cost me real intimacy. And I'm not talking about intimacy with Joel, like sex, that sort of thing, but that can be part of it. Real intimacy with other people, because I would, with myself, with God, with Source, like real intimacy, because I would never let my guard down enough. I would never be okay with just being authentically me. I did this for years and years and years. I wouldn't let anybody in. I always held them at a distance because I felt like I had to protect myself. That was a tough one for me to say out loud. And it wasn't up until even when I started doing this work, and even now today, sometimes in news situations, I really have to remind myself and be very, very intentional that when I show up authentically, that's when I'm able to actually make true, deep, meaningful connections. That's when I'm actually able to, even like when I'm speaking on stage, I'm able to make the large impact that God has been asking me and calling me to make, because I'm developing real intimacy, because I'm sharing authentically, because I'm taking down my guard and taking off my armor. I don't have to protect myself. The universe is always in this light and this energy and this love and this stream of well-being, and just love is always within me and around me, guiding me, supporting me, opening invisible doors so I can have and be and do and experience the fullness and freedom of life. And that's available for you too. And sometimes we just need that reminder. So what does it cost you? Because we get so attached to these ways that we numb out. Sometimes they're even like good things, right? So here's the list that I came up with, is the 7 top ways of numbing out. And I want to hear from you. So tag me on your Instagram stories, shoot me a DM, let me know what your takeaway was from this episode and what you've uncovered about your numbing out. And again, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's not about being a judge of your life. It's just about being a witness and stepping into curiosity. I'm curious on how I'm numbing out. I'm curious on how I'm not experiencing the fullness and freedom of life and what it has cost me. Now, those parts of us that keep us safe, seen, soothed, and secure, those parts of us, they're there and they're not right or wrong, good or bad. They're just there. But oftentimes we can let them know like, hey, thank you for getting me to where I'm at today, but we don't need you anymore. I don't need you right now. And it's not about judging yourself or having shame or guilt for having this part. We all have these parts, and they've made us this beautiful, magical, like this human existence, like who we are, uniquely who we are. And so they're great parts of us, but we don't need them as much as we rely on them. Okay, so here's the list: food and alcohol, social media and TV, controlling. Let me say that one again. Controlling. That was me too. I should have put that on my list. Being busy. Here's another one you're going to love: doing for others. How often do you numb out by doing for others because it's perceived to look good, but you're actually avoiding or ignoring something that, or a dream or a desire that you have, or a goal that you have? Yeah. And then we have isolating and avoiding. And then the last one is spending, overspending. So where are you at with that? Because we get so attached to numbing out, and guess what? You keep coming back to it because it's your comfort zone, because it's part of you. It's that part of you, that part of you inside of you that wants to keep you safe. But you can never get enough of something that almost works. You think you can, and so you keep coming back and back and back. But that second part was it right there, is it almost works. It doesn't work. I heard this quote the other day, and I was like, so damn true. So we're often all hiding. So what's the best place to look if people are hiding? Well, inside everybody, because no one looks there. Right? Often we're not doing the work to look inside of ourselves because we're numbing out. So the first step is really figuring out what yours are, just being aware. Going through these 2 journaling questions that I shared with you on the podcast. And then once you uncover that, then write it down, make a note of it, be aware, be intentional around it every day. And when you find that you're leaning into doing busy work or isolating or scrolling social media, I want you to stop and I want you to ask these 3 questions. What do I feel right now? And put a label to it. And if you're out of feelings and sensations words, get that list in the show notes and save it to your phone so you can pull it up. The second thing is, where do I feel this in my body? And then I just want you to take a few moments and I want you to breathe, put your hands where you can feel it in your body, breathe into that space. And allow yourself to feel the feeling. Maybe it's just an uncomfortableness. Maybe you're feeling worried, anxiety, scared, uncertain. And just feel that, because that's the first step. We just bypass that feeling step altogether. And that's what leads us down this path of starting again on Monday, of never being able to reach our goals, of self-sabotaging, because we're just leaning back on what our subconscious ego-based self is telling us versus being aware in the moment. So what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? Breathe into that. Do some deep breaths. Allow yourself to feel it. And then ask yourself, what do I actually need to feel safe in this moment? And maybe it's just really thinking through that next thing that you're going to do. In my example is sometimes I'll reach over to my phone to check my email or social media. If I'm going to take that next step, maybe I'm going to be reaching out or pitching myself and it's putting me into an uncomfortable situation. What do I need to feel safe in that situation? So in that moment, what I would do is just say a prayer and use an affirmation. And just know and remember, like I shared, there is just this energy, this light, and this love that is within me and around me, guiding me, opening invisible doors. My intention for doing this pitch or this thing that I am doing is to make the big impact, the big, bold impact that God is asking me to make. I am built for this. I can do this. And then do it. But without these moments of deep, intimate presence with yourself, with source, you're just going to bypass it and you're going to numb out and you're going to continue on that path. Deprived of the power of sensation, deprived of the feelings, deprived of the responsiveness, feeling your life less and less, becoming more and more deadened. That definition really struck a chord with me. Because who wants to continually deprive yourself from experiencing the fullness and freedom of our lives? So thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. I know this resonated with you. I want to hear your takeaways, post them on social. Let me know what you're up to around this idea of numbing out. And I can't wait to chat more with you next week. So until then, show up for yourself in life first. Feel every single moment that you can feel, the lows, the highs, and everything in between. Tell people about it. be the one to show the world how truly great life really is, because it is. That's what we're all here for. Thanks for listening.